I'm hoping.
Yeah. Well, here we are live. I have no camera. We've still got a couple of guests to join us, but yeah, I'm camera free. So you've just got the cheering man here from Dr. Strangelove instead. But Bill, Terry, you're both here. So let's kick off in the customary way while waiting for everyone else to join. Bill, what have you been up to this week?
I've been lounging around, relaxing over the long weekend. More recently, I've been looking at a patent from Apple that talks about citations and ranking pages, and I don't know if it's the start of the Apple search engine or just a holdover patent from their Topsy acquisition. But it would be interesting seeing Apple start competing with Google as a search engine.
Yeah, I mean, they've already got to have search functionality, of course. For Siri to be able to look up the right answers to things is a search algorithm. You know, information retrieval is the science we're talking about, and the answer is the information that has to be retrieved, and it's got to be retrieved in association with a particular query.
Right. And Apple Maps, the same type of thing, and they created a local business directory that people can sign up for and register with.
Yep, and of course,
Apple Maps.
inside the Apple Store, you've still got to have search. So it's not that Apple haven't got search engines; it's that they haven't produced one that was designed to be a public-facing, standalone search engine, isn't it?
Right, and this patent originally from Topsy is geared towards searching the web, which I haven't really seen before from Apple.
Yeah.
And you may say, okay, it's an acquisition. They acquired Topsy, but you know they acquired Topsy for a reason. So they wouldn't have to develop that themselves.
Are Topsy the guys who do the Twitter stuff?
Yes, they are.
Mentions, all mentions. I thought they just did Twitter.
They do search Twitter. There's a lot there to search.
Okay. Because
the patent goes beyond just indexing tweets.
Oh, okay. So they built an algorithm, Topsy did, to search tweets, and they've taken that and expanded it into public search.
Well, Topsy expanded it originally, and Apple bought Topsy. So Apple ended up with all the intellectual property. And that patent was granted today. So it was a pending patent application until today.
And Apple owns Siri or just uses the application?
Apple owns Siri.
Okay. I haven't heard good things about that as a search.
It may get better. I mean, Apple Maps wasn't too good when it first started out, and it's gotten better.
Okay. I remember when they took it off for a while when Google started charging to use the Maps app, right?
Right.
And now they told people, well, you can get it back this way. You can get that on a iOS phone now. Google Maps.
Yeah.
They built an app for it.
But Google, Apple's also been working on their own Maps program hard, trying to improve it.
Right.
And they've got a really big user base with all the people with iPhones.
So what's the shirt there, Bill? I have to ask, because it looks like clouds and rainbows.
It's clouds and rainbows, and astronauts carrying clouds and rainbows. Uh-huh.
Okay, excellent. Well, Kristin will be happy that you've dressed for her children.
Unicorns, and he would have had it nailed.
Yeah, we should be joined this hour by Carlos. Carlos has been having a little bit of trouble getting in. Hopefully he will keep trying. Gabriella, I did see around briefly, but hasn't made it in yet. Eric is on a business call and hopes to join us afterwards. The same is true of David Harry. And I don't know where Mark is, but he may be in on the same business call, or he may simply be busy elsewhere. So it's kind of a cut down hangout for the moment, and we still have to hold on to all the seats just in case they'll turn up.
We may be joined by a few. I've run into Mark a number of times over the past week on Blab.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've tried that new social network.
Yes. Yes, it's interesting. A lot of people have been very happy with how it works. I know Mark described it somewhere to me as what Hangouts should be.
I'm
I
going to
disagree.
be trying it out Thursday night here. I have a SEO copywriter from Australia who I'm going to put on a show with and answer SEO questions from business owners.
Mm-hmm.
And see how that works out in a fashion like that. See how well it works. Yeah.
From what I've seen of Blab so far, it seems to be capped at 4 people on a Hangout at a time.
There's a chat window to the right of the screen that anybody watching can participate in.
Yeah, you can talk, you can, chat textually, but it does seem to be that there's only 4 people can be in the video chat at a time. I haven't seen more. And it does that. I don't like the way it divides the screen into quarters to put the pictures in. I kind of like the extra visual control. We're creating a video medium at the end of the day, and I'm not entirely convinced by Blab yet. It's early days. It's still very early.
Right, they're just a little bit older than 100 days. They've been out there really in. It's really been the only last couple weeks that they've gotten any prominence, at least from the SEO and online marketing community.
I've got a feeling they're still in beta, because every time I see an email from them, and I get quite a few during a week, it's still referring to people as testers and pioneers and very. It's got that feeling that it's still in beta. The way they're addressing people indicates it's still in beta, that people are still testing it.
You've gotten emails from them?
Mm-hmm. Only the standard, notification stuff. I've signed up for notifications.
Now, I've used it. I haven't signed up for notifications, though.
Right.
So I haven't seen any of those emails.
Yeah, they're quite standard sort of things, I think. But I think it's got a lot of promise. I like the way it integrates with Twitter, obviously, and I think a lot of other people do. I think it's better than Periscope is by a long way, but I think Periscope sets the bar exceptionally low. A lot of people, jumped on Periscope, and there were Periscope chats all the time, and I have not yet seen a video quality from Periscope that I would tolerate having my name to. They are diabolical. I'm here struggling with hardware at the moment. No camera today, which is why I've got the video feed like this. But at least I can still produce a high quality video image. And that is what I'm not seeing yet on Blab, and I'm certainly not seeing on Periscope. Periscope seems to be appalling.
haven't joined that one yet.
No, Carlos is really struggling to get in. I think he needs to clear that cache.
Yeah, probably needs to look at his Skype settings too.
Yeah, if he's still got Skype on, they can interfere with each other. I've certainly found that in the past.
Yeah, I have to turn it off before I can get it to work right.
Yeah. If you've got one of the camera sharing apps that, you know, will clone your camera and allow as many different programs to use a copy as they want, I think that gets rid of one of the headaches, but even so, it's still asking for a lot more bandwidth.
Like all things Microsoft, flaky.
Sometimes. My word, we're hearing anti-Microsoft stuff from you, Terry. What happened to you this week?
New product, they haven't got it quite. It's improved, but it's still flaky as far as it wanting to take over all your audio and video if you have it turned on. Seems to want to.
Yeah.
What's that, Windows 10?
No, Skype on Windows 10, Bill.
Skype, okay.
Yeah, Windows 10 is another thing that wants to take over everything, but not just your operating system. It wants control of your entire life, your data. It wants the ability to upload your files to the cloud whenever it wants.
Yeah.
And it wants you to use Bing.
Oh, yeah. Of course.
From the desktop.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of the new browser, Edge, that's for sure.
Yeah.
I just use it for certain things and keep the old IE for most things.
It seems a little bit like it got rid of a lot of the bloat from IE.
Yeah, but it doesn't support Flash, for one thing. It's like it's basically a browser that's customized for HTML5, I think.
Mm-hmm. Well, the deprecating Flash isn't a big surprise, is it?
Oh no, because even Flash is deprecating Flash in the future.
Right.
Adobe basically said they're going to give up on it in the future because with HTML5, you don't actually need a player anymore.
Yeah.
It's all in the media. I haven't looked at it exactly, but it removes the need for that player and then all the codec and all the rest of it. So be interesting to see how you program it.
Yeah, basically it's got the WebM format, which allows it to play straight through the browser. The browser can handle that format. It doesn't need a helper.
Basically now that app is built right into the browser, correct?
But of course, that could have been true of Flash or Microsoft Silverlight, but they wanted to hold on to the proprietary thing and make it a plugin. So
yeah, Silverlight just took off like a wet fart.
Yeah, Dave Pipe has said in the Hangout chat that Blab still needs a lot of work to get to where Hangouts are now, which I think he's right. And he confirms that yes, it's still a beta. So yeah, it's got a lot of potential growth left.
I never rush to join these things. I wait until they're actually got a good go. To me, kind of like I can barely cover what I'm doing now. I don't need another one.
And there is always a certain shiny object syndrome, isn't there? Where, you know, oh, I've got to try the new thing. I kind of need, maybe it's because I'm a marketer. I need a demand for something before I bother trying to supply it.
Mm-hmm.
So, what does Blab give me that Hangouts and YouTube don't? And at the moment, it's just that chat interface, but at the cost of a certain amount of video control. And there are times when I'd probably want to have, you know, a more interactive chat when I would go with that. But that's kind of where it's at. Periscope has been even more interesting. I know exactly what I will use it for, but I haven't needed to yet.
Another one. I don't even know what Periscope is, to be honest.
Periscope is owned by Twitter, if I remember rightly. It's certainly got more integration still. It's a video app that is... It's kind of Snapchat-ish in a way, in that it's very temporal. By design, the system doesn't hold the videos for more than 24 hours. If you want to have that video available past that, you need to have your own storage.
So you need to put it on YouTube anyhow. So why do you need that other place?
Hold on, let me just answer Carl's. Can't see your video, but we can see you there. Oh, no, he's gone again. Okay. It's one of those days. It's very good for temporal stuff. You know, if you want to do something where this chat is only available right now, if you're going to use fear of missing out, it's the perfect video medium for it, because that video is only accessible for 24 hours. By default, that's it. It's all about the live event. But if you watch people using it, the chat kind of seems to dominate. It's like watching somebody with a combination of Tourette's and, you know, shiny squirrel syndrome. There'll be... Right, today we're going to be talking about... Oh, hey, David. Oh, thank you, John. Yeah, I saw that. Oh, thank you for the... Right, we're going to be talking about... Oh, hey, Terry. You know, they keep interrupting themselves with the chat, and the quality so far, they are appalling to watch. They might be great to be a part of, but so far they have all been appalling to watch, all the ones I've seen. Most of them are effectively zero rewatch value. But what I would use it for is if I've got a client who wants to do something right now that's all about getting people to jump when I say jump, we need to train them to do that. How do we do that? We do some things like giveaways and special events where you've got to be there live or you miss it, to create that fear of missing out. So imagine auctioning off the end of line clearance stuff. You know, message us now and we'll send you the correct code to get this item at this price. Where you're doing an event that is all about the now, and it's all about, you know, interaction right now, in order to create that fear of missing out, that the next time you do this chat, it's be there or you've missed it. It's very good for that.
Yeah, but here's, in my opinion, that kind of, you got to be here and see it now way of doing things is very much on the out trend, i.e., I'm getting ready to shut down a lot of my TV and just get Netflix, because you know what, I'm tired of having to watch a show being there at X time. Not convenient all the time, so I'd rather watch it in binges and watch all the shows in a row than watch one Friday and wait a week and see another. You know, that sort of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting to see, you know, the sudden attention back to these broadcastable video chats. If you think, you know, Skype certainly brought us a long way forward in creating video discussion, teleconferencing, but it wasn't designed for broadcast. Hangouts really pushed forwards the broadcast aspect, and now suddenly there's a lot more interesting competition. You know, Periscope, Meerkat, Blab, there are others in the pipeline. You know, video chat has become hot again, it seems to me. What do you think, Bill?
I was thinking about what Terry was saying about Netflix. And I've been watching, I signed up for Netflix this weekend, so I've been catching up and sort of binge watching some of the shows produced by Netflix. Uh, like
Yeah, I
there's
saw that
one,
you've been watching Sherlock.
I've been watching Sherlock. Uh, I watched Daredevil, which is Netflix only, and it's pretty well done. I watched a few episodes of a show called Lilyhammer,
Oh
which
yeah.
is a black comedy about a guy in the New York Mafia who gets put in a witness protection program and moves to Norwegian city of Lilyhammer.
Uh-huh. Yeah, we had a Winter Olympics there some years ago.
Right. And that's the reason he gave for wanting to move to Lilyhammer, the Olympics. He found love with the area watching the Olympics that year.
I can think of worse reasons to move.
He figured that nobody would search for him there. You know, his witness protection program would be successful because nobody would think of looking for him in Lilyhammer.
Yeah.
And
So, I know you've been sort of catching up on those. What kind of TV do you really like, Bill? What are your favourite sort of programs usually?
I like dramas. I like shows like Sherlock. Absolutely.
Sherlock
Yeah.
is something very special. They're all Sherlock fans. They're all fans of the original books by Slawski and Ammon, and they wanted to bring it right up to date. And I think they've done an excellent job. They've, consider Dr. Watson, who is now, from the sort of Desert Storm Afghanistan war instead of the Crimean War. He's a blogger instead of a journalist. But they have brought it all very nicely up to date, and I think it works very well. And the casting, let's face it, has been fantastic. Benedict Cumberbatch, whose fans are apparently called Cumberbitches, brought something very special to that role.
Yes, I think he has.
The US series Elemental kind of bridged the gap already in creating a Sherlock Holmes that was both enviable and annoying. It's one of the things that they've added to Sherlock because it was in the original books, is that he infuriates people in that he's got this immense intellect but seems to crave distraction all of the time, and I think both of those series did a very good job of it. But for me, Sherlock is just a whole class above it. It's one of the best things I've seen on TV in years.
I have to agree with that.
As you get into it, the chemistry between those two is amazing, and it enables in-jokes, little jokes between the two of them, that you get to know the characters so well you can see them, but they don't have to be telegraphed. In the first of the series after Sherlock's death, that one had me in absolute fits of laughter. When you get to that, believe me, it will probably do the same for you, but it was amazing stuff. And it was all based on the very subtlest of understandings of those characters. Of course, the brother, the one who plays Mycroft, is one of the writers and producers of the show. He's one of the big Sherlock fans.
Okay.
Also heavily involved with Doctor Who. I think that's where they basically got the backing to be able to do this, is the success of Doctor Who in recent years. What about you, Terry? What kind of TV do you watch when you watch it, other than sports?
A lot of sports. Every night baseball pretty well right now. Then in the winter it changes to hockey. As far as TV, let's see, I watched, over the last 2 weeks, I watched all 7 seasons of Californication, which is a really good, it's not as dirty as it sounds, Ammon.
I know. Were you disappointed?
No, actually, I started watching the show when it came out, and then I dropped that part of the cable, and now I bought another subscription to something like Netflix here in Canada. Actually, I found that if the cable companies in Canada, if you phone them up and threaten to leave, they start giving you all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
So every couple of years, I phone them up and complain about the prices. They take 30% off for a while and give me some free services. So I got something called Show Me, which I believe may be owned by Amazon. Because I've watched a few series that Amazon produced. One is called Legit, which is a comedian. I think his name's Jim Jeffries. Funny guy. And I knew a couple of the other actors in the show, so I like that one, and I've been watching it. Watch a few channels of shows that we don't get here in Canada, because the networks aren't here. But if I really like reality shows like Deadliest Catch and Gold Rush.
Dave says Californication is not as dirty as the X-Files. I think he's right. That would be Gillian Anderson.
The stars from the X-Files, David Duchovny.
Yeah.
He's an actor. I kind of like his style, you can say.
Yeah. It certainly, I gave it a try, but it didn't grip me. I don't know why, but then again, I didn't like the X-Files either. For me, David Duchovny, just, I don't know. It's not something that I've really enjoyed. One thing I have caught recently is the series Peaky Blinders, or rather the first 2 series of Peaky Blinders. Now, Zara Altair was telling me I have to catch this, and having done so, I agree with her. It's kind of a mixture of, well, think of Downton Abbey meets The Sopranos.
Okay. Hey, Eric.
Hey, how you guys doing?
Good. How are you?
Staying busy.
Excellent. Did we get you out of bed? You seem to be in your pajama jacket.
That's not a pajama jacket. Can you see them? Can't tell if I got it in the screen or not, but yeah, I'm in the office, as far as I can tell. I think this is the office.
So, Eric, what have you been up to this week?
Well, we had American Labor Day yesterday, so that was a day off, but I'm about to go to a client meeting in Palm Beach. So I'm not going to get a lot of sympathy for that one.
No.
And then heading out to the Confluence Conference in Oklahoma City. I might do a little better at getting sympathy for that one.
Which conference?
A Confluence.
Okay.
There's a lot of these regional things popping up these days where they get a few hundred people as opposed to shooting for, thousands of people. And
I wonder
they're
if
getting...
David Kutcher's going to that, because of course Confluent Forms is his domain, so it sounds like it's a conference almost named for him.
Yes, there you go. It's true. I was just talking about him, actually. Because, his thing where he got a rich answer box result a while back, I use that as a case study once in a while.
Yeah, yeah. So, I was having this conversation earlier elsewhere with Mark, where he was saying that, you still very much value conferences, and I've kind of gone the other way. For me, I've been stepping back and doing less and less conferences. I get totally the views, but let's talk about that, because we all have different positions on this. So how do you feel about conferences? What makes a good conference, and what makes you still involved with conferences?
Yeah, from our perspective, the number of times that I'm going to go to a conference and get a client directly out of that conference, we do get them. The economic model isn't based on, show up at the conference, I spent, say, $10,000 getting back and forth to the conference, signed a $100,000 contract, so the expense was only 10% of the contracts I got directly from the conference. That's not the way we look at it.
Mm-hmm.
We find that they're very helpful over a long period of time in driving the close of business. And they may have seen me or Mark speak at a conference. They may see the articles. They may see videos. They may, any number of these different things. And sort of the cumulative weight of them all together that helps drive the business growth. So the direct ROI model doesn't work, in my opinion, at least not in industry-specific conferences. But when you broaden it, the number of people who say, "Oh yeah, I saw you speak at such and such," and I also got the Art of SEO, third edition. Yeah, that happens a lot.
If I've still got a little mention in it, I don't mind you plugging it.
Oh yeah, no, you're going to mention in here. We still use your suggestion, your letter that you wrote to hire a marketer.
Yeah.
With your very modest claim that if you don't know who I am, then you're not qualified for the job anyway.
Yeah, pretty much. I wanted somebody who knew their SEO, and there aren't so many first-geners that I don't expect people to know the ones that have been out there for a while.
Yeah, sure.
If I name Eric Engie and Bill Slawski and somebody doesn't know who they are, they're not an SEO. I'm sorry, they're not.
Right.
If you haven't learned that much, how the hell are you going to quote Kleinberg to me?
Yeah, no, you haven't been actively researching. That is clearly the case, right? You might have learned some stuff, and that stuff might be useful, but you haven't been using your own initiative to dig in and really understand deeper levels of stuff.
Yeah, and of course it was a very specific position where I wanted not a junior, I wanted an equal. I wanted somebody that I could take out and train to do exactly what I was doing in the least possible time. So
yeah.
So my take on conferences, and I get totally where you're coming from. I have been scaling back. It got to the point where I was doing SES and I was doing SMX, and I was maybe doing a couple of other smaller conferences and a few private conferences that are, client-only kind of things. And it's a lot of time. It's a lot of time out of a year. And when you're doing a presentation, I used to cheat. I used to do SES or SMX. I would try and say, right, what open panels have you got? Ask the audience stuff or the live reviews, stuff like that, because I don't need to make a presentation for that, so I'm not losing a day or two building up a great slide deck and running through my presentation and polishing it up. I just turn up and do what I do. But I'm still losing a day or two with the, you know, the travel of the day and then staying up all night in the bar.
Well, I mean, there's a little bit of choice involved in that one too there, Ammon. So.
What is that branding thing? Look, some of the best conversations I've had around SEO occur around about 1 and 2 in the morning.
Yeah. Yeah, no, just to give you an idea, I'm going to Confluent this week. I'm going to the SCJ conference in New York next week. I'm going to Share 15 in San Francisco the following week. I'm going to SMX East the week after that and PubCon the week after that. So that is probably the diametrically opposing view to what you just expressed. But I got to be honest, I don't do the staying up till 1 or 2 in the morning drinking. I just can't do it. I just, don't have the body for it anymore.
Yeah, I'm not sure I can still do it, but I'm not sure that I'd be willing to quit and not try. And believe me, I have done the thing of going to one and speaking one day, then doing the heavy night out and having a session in the morning where I was speaking. There was one where I was doing 2 panels, and believe me, still being awake from the night before and having a 9:30 panel
right.
is interesting.
Yes, indeed.
But aside from that, I just found, yes, it is important to some of my clients that, you know, I have spoken at these events, that I am, you know, of a level to speak at these events.
Right.
But there is also an element, not everyone who speaks at SES or SMX is somebody who necessarily should be speaking at SES or SMX. There was a feeling a few years ago that if you spent enough on a sponsor booth, they weren't going to turn you down for a speaking position somewhere.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no, that's true. And there's other conferences these days where getting the spot is dependent on some level of sponsorship.
Yeah, and so there was a bit of a mixed bag there. A lot of I do get some of the big clients, you know, I do get some of the big blue chips, I do get some of the banks, some of the internationals, but almost always they have an in-house SEO who's recommended me. And these are often the people who, do you know what, they're aware of the conferences, they're even invited to speak at some of them.
Right.
But they're not taken in by the fact that somebody's just spoken at those, because they're the first ones to complain about some of the speakers.
Yeah, and unfortunately it does happen. I mean, because the conferences they're very anxious to not have it be the same people all the time. So they go through and they try to bring new people in and test them out and see, you know, who's good. And it happens. They get told that, you know, somebody's going to talk about such and such changes to something which isn't exactly the same as they told the moderator, and they speak in the monotone voice, and they put up slides with you know, 800 words per slide, and it's like and not much is learned. And, you know, they try to avoid that, but it's unavoidable that you're going to get some of it.
The thing that I think is still worth, if somebody hasn't gone to conferences, you're missing out. You definitely should go. You learn so much about presenting material from going to a conference, and it will help you in every client pitch you ever have afterwards to think about what worked in presentations, because you're going to be making presentations as part of your living. If you want that contract, you've got to make an effective presentation, because you're going to be up against another company that does.
Yep.
So if you haven't gone to a conference, go to one. But I was losing several days a year, and at the end of the day, it just wasn't quite worth it. Yes, you get some great mentions, you get some great links, you certainly make some good connections. But maybe it's a testament to social media. I can get all of those things on social media.
Right.
Sometimes I will get a lot more attention, a lot more mentions, and a lot more connections from one good article than from 3 or 4 conferences. So it's a mix. Bill, what about you? What's your take on conferences?
I enjoy going to them. I enjoy presenting at them. I like getting involved in the mix and getting some new ideas out there. I'm going to be presenting at PubCon this year, and there are awards at PubCon and at SMX West this year. The agency I work for is up for a couple of those, so I'm hoping for us to win at least one of those. We'll see what happens.
Yeah. That's great. You know, the awards are interesting, especially in our industry. We didn't submit anything for any of those, largely because of the confidentiality requirements of our clients. And you know, we're going to try to be more thoughtful next year and begin working on that, because you kind of have to get that lined up almost months in advance. You know, just in order to be able to be considered. But we'll be pulling for you, Bill, and hopefully you guys will win.
Yeah, I'm really happy with the success of the client whose SEO work is showcased in the presentations that we gave for having that campaign considered as part of the award. It was a pretty much straightforward SEO engagement, and it did really well.
So, Bill, you've already said enjoyment, but is that the main thing you're getting out of these conferences, or do you think there is more value than just enjoyment? Let's not knock enjoyment. Let's face it. If it recharges your batteries, if it makes you feel good about things, because sometimes this work can be incredibly frustrating. It can be hard as hell when you've just spent months building a campaign and then suddenly the rules change and you have to undo something. It's rare that happens, but it does happen sometimes. So,
well, what you had mentioned about presentations and seeing people give presentations, and you get a chance to see a lot of different styles. I gave a presentation with Eric at SMX West, where we both presented things from a different point of view. Eric came out with a big study where he showed off the types of direct answers that Google was showing to us in search results. And I came at it from talking about some of the patents that I've seen from Google and some of the discussion they've had about why they might show answers to questions and where they might get that information from. And we presented with Aaron O'Reilly from Glassdoor.
Yeah.
And he talked about the success that his company was having in getting direct answers to show for his pages and how they're bringing traffic to his website.
Yeah, I've always thought that when they get a panel just right at one of those conferences, it is amazing because you can have 6 people up there with 6 completely different parts of the puzzle and different styles, and it just really works to cover the whole angle.
There's another aspect of style that's worth talking about too, because you know, we you know, those of us on the call have a lot of experience with SEO, but I can still benefit from understanding the way somebody else puts the pieces together and how they organize it.
Yeah.
Ammon, you talked about, you have to be good at making presentations. You better learn how to do that, otherwise you're not going to get clients, etc. And when you put together a presentation, make some decisions. You start with this is the first tidbit of information and organize it into a stirring conclusion, hopefully somewhere along the way. But in contrast, somebody else might take that same topic, present it equally well, but just organize the facts differently and structure the way they combine concepts a little differently than you. And you're kind of saying to yourself, I could think about it that way too, and it can, even though I didn't learn a new set of facts, I might have learned a new way to put together the same set of facts.
Yeah.
And that could still be very useful.
Yeah. I mean, people that I used to study their presentations and always enjoy, but also pick up tips from Mike Grahan, of course, Barry Lloyd, always entertaining, always very practical, Dave Naylor, very, very practical, and yet very, very engaging as well. He had a real gift of being very down to earth with the topics he was talking about, and still being entertaining with it. And Rand, of course, you watch Rand. He is a very, very good presenter, especially for the big picture stuff.
Right.
Whiteboard Friday, of course, keeps him very much in practice, but he has a very good presentation style, I think.
Yes. Yeah, all good speakers that you mentioned. I'm actually getting to share a panel with Mike at PubCon, just the two of us on a panel. I think it's about just expectations for the future of SEO. So it'd be great to be able to do that together with him.
Yeah. Hopefully he's slowed down a little bit, because he was the one I used to be drinking till 1 a.m. with. So watch yourself.
Oh, indeed.
Yeah, you do learn a lot from these. Definitely, everyone. If you haven't been to a conference, go to one. Go to a couple. Go to a couple of different style conferences, because there are all different styles. I'm not 100% with the social media ones yet. A lot of those are still quite small. They're there because they know there's a lot of money in the conference space if it opens up, rather than... I found the search engine conferences originally, they were driven by demand. People wanted this information, and it was a good way to get it out there. SES was a market-driven piece, and the ticket prices still show that today. But unfortunately, I think it showed how much money was in it to some others, and some conferences came along to make money rather than because there was a strong demand for them.
Right.
So it's tricky. Terry,
Yeah.
you're probably the most skeptical in some ways on the conferences. What's your take on them?
As a presenter, like you, I don't mind doing the ones that I don't have to prepare for. The ones that you have to prepare for, no thanks. Just not the way my mind works with the PowerPoint and all that crap. Not my style.
The last presentation one that I did was Brighton SEO, which is just about on my doorstep, so I couldn't not do it. And that's where I did the talk on delete Google Analytics, and there was something I wanted to do with that. I wanted people to stop and think, and it kind of, I think I got that. I think I absolutely stunned a couple of people, but it wasn't your traditional, here's the thing and here's the answers you want presentation. It was, here's the thing and here's a load of questions you haven't thought of, and now that those are really scaring you, that's why I'm leaving you, because it's your job to now go out and think of your own answers to this. The whole point is, if you're accepting somebody else's answers to analytics, you're doing it wrong.
Yeah,
analytics should be what you need to know, not what somebody else is telling you they can provide you.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of the sampling stuff either.
Well, yeah, the sampling it can be quite light too. That's the problem. You know, it's one thing if it was a 50% sample, but you know that's not what we're talking about. So,
Yeah.
Eric, if you don't mind, I'd like giving us a preview. What is the future of search?
oh, it's such a simple question to answer. I'm so glad you asked me.
That's okay. My topic is the evolution of search. Closely related.
I've started to think about it only at this point, to be honest with you. I mean, look, obviously you guys can give as good an answer as I can, but I think of things like, well, the first thing I try to hang my hat on is what isn't going to change. The need for a way to search for things is not going to change, right? That's something I can hang my hat on. The nature of human needs isn't going to change. Technology is going to change dramatically. So we're already looking at a situation where, you know, okay, I've got this device right here, and we're at a primitive point now where we're trying to talk everybody into making sure they can take a web page that's designed for something that big and give them an elegant way to render it into the same information as something that big. And I get it. I know why we're doing it, but it doesn't make sense to me. If there are more people searching on this device, then you ought to build something from scratch for this device.
I still favour that approach, Eric, every single time. I mean, responsive design can be good, but there are times when you should have a mobile site because actually the customers on mobile are different. They've got different constraints from the technology. They've got different constraints from the service provider. And sometimes they have different constraints in their needs as well, because there's a reason that they're on a mobile device. It's often because they're not at home to sit down at their computer. Some of them are, but a lot of the time this is stuff that's done on the road and their needs are different. It's more immediate.
Right. So that's just one of the things that I think of that will be a big difference, which is more than just SEO, but it's sort of the overall online marketing environment, and obviously that would have some impact on SEO. So that's one thing I could imagine talking about. Well, the continuing growth of rich answers is another topic area I think is going to continue like crazy. Back when I did that study that you mentioned earlier, Bill, which we published in February of this year, I made the prediction then that we would go from Google returning rich answers on 19% of the queries that we tested, which was the February result. And my guess was that they would get to 40, 20% or less words, huh? Yeah, thank you for the helpful comment, Ammon. We get to 40% by year's end. And, you know, that's, we're not going to get there. We have new data that says it's going to be about probably in the 30s somewhere. So that's another area I think about.
Terry?
I'm not. What's a? What did you say? Rich answer?
Yeah, that's where they pop that box up above the search results where they give a direct answer.
Okay, now I know what you're talking. They're going to be 40% of searches?
That was my, no, 40% of the queries we tested, which were queries that were designed to have a chance of bringing up a rich answer. So that was something like, how do you do this? Or how much does such and such way? Or what happens this way?
It's formed in the way of a question.
Yeah.
Right.
In a way where there was an answer as well, rather than lots of different answers and a very vague thing. Is that about right?
Yeah, that's right.
So you know, how do I make pecan pie is a good kind of query for that, because there is a way. Although there can be several ways, you know, there's going to be a way as well.
I think it could go over at some point over 40% on mobile.
Sure, I agree with that, Terry. Completely.
I think that predictive search is going to be the big search prediction. I think more and more we are going to be connected all the time, and that our devices will be trying to predict what we're going to search for before we do and whisper in our ears.
Right. Absolutely.
Isn't that speech search is what I'm thinking could really change it as well.
Oh.
Because the context, I think, will really change things when people start searching using their voice, because they could do predictive from that.
It's not even just their voice, Terry. We've got more and more devices now that are listening all the time to whatever's going in the microphone, so they're aware of your environment as well. And I think it's only so long before these devices are using the GPS and the sound and possibly vision to interrupt. Hey, I noticed that you're now looking at such and such a restaurant. This restaurant has so many reviews. There's another one just around the corner that's generally preferred. Would you like directions, or would you like to see what's on their menu?
Right.
Which of course is going to be a nightmare for the restaurant owner, who's now having people right outside his shop being possibly poached.
Yes, indeed, and I think the notion of many labels for it, semantic search, which I don't think is the right label. I think it's much more. Google is going to increasingly try to evaluate user satisfaction and those kinds of signals and content quality and various flavors of that, and that's going to be increasingly a factor in how they rank things, in my opinion.
Yeah, and one thing I've noticed is more studies being done on what level of this is creepy. Obviously, Facebook has had some of these kind of issues. How much of being aware of what you've just posted should we take into account with what we're showing you? Yeah, we know everything you do, but at what level does it become creepy that you know that we know everything about you?
And Google recently canceled a project, the Google Here project, because Larry Page admitted that it was too creepy.
Mm.
He said, you're not going to walk into the Starbucks and automatically, instantly get an alert from Google saying, "Hi, Bill. How about a latte? That's what you like, right?"
Yeah.
But Facebook still does that, right?
They're all still doing it. It's just they're all deciding what level is acceptable to people. And do you know what? That's probably going to change. Our kids are probably going to be a lot more tolerant of technology watching them all the time than we are, because they're just growing up with it.
Yes, they are.
In some ways, that becomes streamlined. I know when I phone up, for instance, for a pizza, they know what I ordered last time. I don't find that creepy at all. That I call a pizza joint and they know what I did last time. It's a national chain. They got my phone number when they call in.
If
So I don't find that creepy at all.
Because then I could turn around and get a #1 running back, because I love the running backs. But 9 times out of 10, I'm not getting.
Yeah, and like for me, of course I wouldn't, even though I was the first pick. I would.
Running back. Who's catching the sports results? So. Okay, so predictive search is our prediction for search, certainly. And Bill's got the easy one there, because the evolution of search. My word, Bill, you can still point to SEO Neanderthals out there. Still putting
I've been thinking about presenting some history of Google from 2005, and including that in my presentation, calling it the evolution of search, because I'm showing a change in trajectory. I'm showing when Google started answering direct answers, and they started moving to showing things from the web of data as opposed to the web of URLs. Thinking that sometimes it's better to answer a query than show links to pages that answer that query.
Right.
I was looking up Kleinberg's page earlier. I posted the link to. I've got a hangout tomorrow
on SEO, and we're starting off with SEO from the search engine perspective. So who better than Kleinberg, who's published so many things that people can access there on, you know, what networks are, what they look like, what they study, how power laws apply. All of these things were things that he published studies on, and I wanted to show people, look, you know, there's sometimes this feeling amongst people who just started to get into SEO that Google makes these numbers up. You know, it's some sort of arbitrary hoop jumping exercise. And I wanted to show people, no, look, this is the science. This is the study behind what they're trying to do. This is the way things work that they're trying to model. And they're aware of an awful lot of things. I was going back to the bow tie theory of the web. Do you remember the Alta Vista study? Oh, I'm really going back with that. But it was the first time somebody had done a large-scale graphing of the web. And they found it didn't look like what we thought it was going to do. You know, we tended to think of the web in the ways that people like Berners-Lee kind of described it, where everything's interconnected. It's this great big ball of spaghetti. If you looked at the links, you know, it's all going around and back and forth. And Alta Vista did their study and graphed the web over the largest body of documents that had been done at that time, and they found out it doesn't look like that at all.
Andrea Broder?
4 roughly equal-sized portions of the web. First, you've got that ball in the center. They called this the knot of the bow tie, which, yep, these are all connected. You know, they've got links going in and links coming out. They're interconnected. Then you had an equal-ish sized part of the web where you could get from there to other sites, but there was no way you were going to get from that central part to them. Nothing in there was really linking to them. So they were almost like orphan pages with links on.
Right.
Then you've got the destination pages, the authority pages that maybe had a lot of links to them but didn't link to anything. You know, these were self-referencing documents only. So that was the other third. And in this study, you know, they're looking at I think it was only a few million links at the time, you know, several hundred million links, but those were 3 parts, and then there was this bit they called the tendrils, and this is the stuff that neither linked into nor out of that central spaghetti. We call it these days more often, you know, the deep web or the dark web. Some of that, of course, is deliberately not linked, but there's an awful lot of documents out there that somebody puts online and they don't know where to submit it, or they don't know how to submit it in a way that will stick. So it gets no links to it, and it doesn't really link out because they were just talking about their own thing. And, you know, these are just out there in the ether, and they're called these the tendrils.
And a lot of that's information, if we talk about it under the name the deep web as opposed to the dark web, it's information like SEC filings that you can only access through a search on the SEC website.
Yeah.
It's not linked to by anything.
Yep, absolutely. And almost every university has dozens of pages that you can find through the internal search. And it may have originally had links at some time. This is another thing. Those relationships change over time. Sometimes something that was linked to heavily at the time, a new version comes up, everyone updates their links. There's nothing now pointing to it. Once upon a time it was firmly connected in, and you know, it's kind of been abandoned.
Well, they get put into databases behind like paywalls.
Yeah, you'd probably still find links to that in, you know, something like the Wayback Machine, but nothing that's actually current. So
Right.
It was fascinating, and he's got these documents online. You know, if you've never looked at Kleinberg's page, do so. There is some fascinating reading there, hours and hours upon it. He's produced so many papers. There's several full books that you can read there. There's even a couple of online courses. You know, do investigate this stuff, because for me, Kleinberg is still he's my #1 guy. He is my icon of information retrieval, because he did discuss so much and how it relates to markets. Because when he was talking about networks and online networks, he was comparing this to markets and how we study markets, how we study economies, because a network is a kind of economy. So yeah, I sort of threw that out for a discussion tomorrow, but it's still something that I think everyone needs to be aware of. And as I say, there are far too many people who seem to think that Google makes these rules up. You know, it just plucks numbers out of the air. Right, let's make webmasters do this. No, that's not what they're doing.
Yeah, no, they're pretty sensitive to all that too. They think that they don't hear the feedback from the community at large, and they don't always necessarily follow it or respond to it directly, but they're hearing it. No question about it.
Yeah, absolutely. And it is another one of those things, you know, we talk about the SEO bubble at times, but people forget how much of a bubble it is. Bear in mind, you know, we're in SEO, and that predominantly means that we're hired by somebody who expects to make money from the internet. But we already know from Google that all transactional search, and Google's definition of transactional isn't just shopping. This is anything where you might want to upload or download, where you're going to want to interact rather than just see. That comes out as transactional, and transactional is 10% of all searches. So we're roughly talking about 5% of all searches, 5% of everything Google has to do has any money in it whatsoever.
True.
So yeah, of course we've got a bias in that we are in a subsection of the net generally, and yeah, it's a very lucrative, very enjoyable one. But you know, we do need to be aware of this. One thing that we've often spoken about, and I think everyone on this panel has at some point, you know, the need to tap into some of those informational, which are the majority of all searches. You know, people want information a lot more often than they want products.
Yeah, I've seen transactional search turn into informational off-season as well.
Yeah.
Especially during when universal search came out.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, and I think that's true of almost everything. You know, in the summer, if somebody's asking about ice cream, they may well want one. In the winter, they're more likely to be, you know, what's the history of it, and where does ice cream come from? Who invented ice cream? You know?
That's what I was going to ask, because I started to agree, and then I was like, oh wait, I might want to clarify what do you mean by off season? So you're saying literally like the seasons.
Seasonal is better, actually. Okay. So, for instance, I figured this out when I was working with a client who sold nothing but pajamas. Summer was really dead. Winter was like September on. Huge.
Yeah, another example just to illustrate is you can go to Google at different times of year and search on things related to a sports team. So here, in the U.S. with baseball, I can enter a query like Red Sox versus Yankees, and if there's a series about the start, let's say there's a game today, it will give me the answer to the game time right up top. If it's not been a very recent series and it's a couple weeks before the next one, it may present me instead the data on the rivalry during this season with some summary data. And then if I search during the off season, in the winter here, the result will be a page that talks about the history of the rivalry between the two teams. So you get extremely different answers depending on the context.
Yeah.
So that's even another extension. You know, I think when we talk about seasonal, I think we start getting into the notion of context-specific search, with season or time of year being one kind of context that can vary.
Yeah.
Do a search in Google for Duke Blue Devils during the football season, and you'll see football scores.
Yeah.
Now, during the basketball season, you'll see basketball scores.
Yeah.
It understands the context of that entity. There are two different teams with the same name from the same location, but it knows which one you want depending upon what time of year it is.
That's
Yeah,
really
Absolutely, and you can certainly see why that would be true. When there's a World Cup or a European Cup coming up in soccer, if somebody searches, England versus Germany, they're probably looking for an upcoming match. If there is one, that's the information that they're almost certainly going to want. When's this match coming up? If there's just been a match, they probably mean that one. What was the results of that? If it's a long way between games, they probably mean some of the historical best-known games of England versus Germany. So, looking up the 1966 World Cup, that should probably be in those results. So, yeah, the time of a thing and how trendy it is at a time is very, very important to search. Absolutely.
yeah.
It's
So
really
another
cool.
Go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just gonna say it's really cool how it like ebbs and flows with what humans are doing. Like the machine readable text it goes right along with us.
Yeah, but Google also tries to personalize everything so far. A lot of that is personalization. Like if I go in and I search ice hockey, all I'm going to see is mainly stuff about the Toronto Maple Leafs because I live in Toronto.
Mm.
And well, that's as it is because there's only one team.
Yeah, and
Right.
of course, you keep appearing on Google Hangouts wearing the Maple Leaf shirt as well.
Yeah. And when you say things like A, that gives you away.
Yes, indeed. Hey guys, I'm sorry, but I'm actually going to have to drop off. I have to get headed to the airport.
We are at that time, so I am going to stop the broadcast. We kind of went over the time. Thanks everyone for joining us, and we will be back next week. Thanks to all the panel.
Mm-hmm.
And catch you soon.